On today's video, we're going to talk about the 5 things that I love about my 2013 GTS and the 5 things I dislike about it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mike the Baldadonis. I buy and sell cars as a hobby, and I bring you guys along with me showing the pros and cons of each vehicle I buy. I do travel videos throughout New England, and I talk about my life experiences. Alright guys, so I think I was fibbing just a little bit. There's not 5 things I like. There's way more things I like about this Porsche than just 5 things. We're gonna go over that in a second. And I was fibbing about the 5 things I dislike because there's only a few things that I don't like about it. And it's not like, you know, a deal breaker. It's just something that I feel could have been improved on this vehicle. So let's get to how I ended up buying this vehicle. So I sold my BMW X5 diesel that was tuned. It was very quick. It had 350 horsepower, 500 feet-pounds of torque. It was tuned, like I said. It was a rocket ship. The only thing I didn't like about that vehicle was the suspension. It had H&R springs, and it rode terrible. Great for somewhere there was no potholes, because the handling was excellent, but as soon as you hit a pothole, your teeth fell out of your head. Seriously, it was brutal. So once I sold that, I seen this on Facebook, and I was like, wow, that is a nice car. And the options that it had and the meticulous maintenance from the previous owner, everything was done at Porsche, no matter what, for its lifetime. So I have all the service records from day one until now. Everything was done at Porsche. Now, how expensive is Porsche? Well, if you want to put a starter in, it's gonna cost you $3,000. That's because the intake manifold has to be removed and the starter is inside the V shape of the engine. You put the intake manifold back on, that's why it's $3,000. But you know what? So doesn't Lexus. Their V8s, they're in the same position. Toyotas, the V8s, those starters are in the same spot as the Porsche. A battery, $1,100, because you have to take the seat. I believe the seat has to come out. The battery comes out. You put the new battery in. You have to reprogram everything. So that's $1,100. Now, if you want to save money, go to FCP Euro. They're not sponsoring me. FCP Euro. Go online. Go to Porsche. Go to any German manufacturer on FCP Euro. And everything that you buy, once it wears out, you replace it and it comes to you free. Oil is free. Wiper blades are free. Brakes are free. Anything that you buy, you get a new set of whatever it is. It's in the computer showing that you bought it, and you simply return the old ones, and it's free. All right, so when I first bought it, I wasn't very impressed. Like I said, I had that BMW. I also have an M6 convertible. I have a Mini Cooper S, and I have a Lexus SC430. Now that Lexus sold over 2 weeks ago, and that new owner loves it. So trying to get used to a vehicle takes some time for me because I'm bouncing back and forth to different vehicles. Now I noticed this car, like I said, I wasn't impressed because the tires were choppy and it was wiggling. It just didn't ride nice. And then after I got new tires, I had to get the rear wheels fixed. I had to get the dents out. So let's talk about what I did to the vehicle. Brand new tires. I fixed the wheels. I did a transfer case fluid change. I put front brake pads. I did wiper blades, and the thing runs fantastic. So it does take a little time to get used to a vehicle. So let's talk about the things I love about it. Obviously, it's the GTS package. The 21-inch wheels are gorgeous. It is black, metallic. I love that color because in the sunlight, it turns into like a purple, dark blue, black. So that's very sharp looking. I love the dual exhaust with the dual tips. The interior is stunning. I love looking at this interior. I love the dark birch wood. I love the steering wheel. I love the Panamera sunroof versus the stock sunroof. The dash, I love that. I love the air-conditioned seats. And I love that clock right in the middle of the dash. The surround sound with the Bose stereo system sounds incredible. And when I first got it, learning that suspension and what works for you took a little time to adjust for me. But I find normal mode is great for just daily driving. Sport mode, it tightens up a little bit. And Sport Plus, I love that mode because the exhaust opens up, the throttle response, is quicker and the handling is just unbelievable. The only thing I don't like about the Sport Plus is the way it downshifts. It's a little aggressive. That's the only thing I don't like about that. The Alcantara headliner is gorgeous. There's even a little storage underneath the seat. It's easy to drive. When you need it, it is quick, but it does take a little time to get that RPM and get it going. But once it gets going, it's a rocket ship. And the best thing about it, it's the way it makes you feel. When I drive that, people stare at it. I get a lot of attention. It is that pretty. It's sexy. It's just, once people see it, they're in awe. No matter where I go, Dunkin' Donuts, to the gym, food shopping, wherever I go, people's eyes just stare at the vehicle. It is a good looking vehicle. The other plus was that the car had ceramic coating on it, so when I wash it, it looks like it's brand new. So it doesn't look dated whatsoever. All right, so let's talk about the things I don't like. All right, I already said the stereo system was fantastic, but to hook up your iPhone and get everything going, it just takes a long time, and I don't like that. The key fob with the batteries, as soon as you put the new batteries in, it resets everything. That's including the seats, the climate control, everything in the car to the previous owner. That threw me off big time. The other thing with the key fob, if the battery starts to die, it will not start the car because it's trying to read the battery and it just won't start. So I almost got stuck in New York, Maine. I was lucky it caught, it started it up, and I was like, okay, let me get some fresh batteries. But the thing you can do is, and I didn't know that, if you have the fake key that's in the ignition, you simply click it twice, and then you click it back to the left, it will pull out and you can put your regular key in and you will have no issue at all. Okay, so talking about the settings. Sometimes when I open up the door and I get in, the seat will go to the position that I had it in. So the steering wheel drops down, comes to me, the seat would move forward, and sometimes it doesn't. I'm not sure if that's because the key fob is programmed and then you program the door as well. So, you know, that's something I had to get used to. I'm still learning that. So the settings with the air suspension in comfort mode, it's just a little too loose for me. That's why I prefer the other settings. So the other thing I don't like is the shifter. It just feels plasticky. It doesn't have that expensive feel to it when you put it in gear. That's just my opinion. And for that type of car, I think a higher quality material would have been nice. And speaking of materials, when you put the directionals on or the cruise control, that plastic on the stocks are very thin, cheesy. I think it should have been a better plastic for those as well. Okay, this is just nitpicking, but when I move the outside mirrors, the door mirrors, that switch, I don't know, it doesn't do the job well enough for me. I don't like that. So the other thing, being a Boston vehicle with the 20-inch wheels, these wheels were fixed previously because when I had the two wheels done, the guy told me, he goes, these was worked on before. So that's a con as well. You're gonna fix these wheels over and over again, so try to avoid the potholes, but that's something you can't do in a city that has, or a state that's just full of potholes, unfortunately. So that's a con. Either fix the wheels, buy new wheels, or downsize and get a smaller wheel with larger tires, you know, the height-wise. But other than that, I think that's something you're gonna live with, having a car like this. All right, so those are things I love about the car and what I don't like about the car. As you can see, those are things that I can live with, the things that I don't like. But I have an Insta360 camera, the X4, and we're gonna take the car for a little ride. So this is a fun action camera, so let's take a look. right, so breaking news. I sent photos to my aunt and uncle on the Porsche. They were looking for a vehicle. 3 weeks later, they finally come up to the house over the weekend and they bought it. So there's a new owner. I just have to wait for the title, but they bought it. It's at their house right now. And I'm already missing the Porsche. I mean, I just started getting used to it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I love driving that thing. I finally got the wheels fixed, the new tires, the brakes are on there, and I was really enjoying, driving like a maniac with the V8. So, well, I'm gonna be honest with you, I drive like an old man or an old lady because I don't want nothing to break. So every once in a while, I will goose it just to do it. But for the most part, I buy to resell and I don't need to break anything. All right, so my uncle, he's gonna talk about why he bought it. So let's take a look. The reason why you bought this.
Well, we needed a new car, obviously, but we were replacing a car that I love, the Acura MDX that we had from 2005. She reached the end of the road. We needed a new car, and I hate the new MDXs. They've changed the car so much moving forward that I didn't really want one. But what I wanted was an MDX Plus, I guess, so to speak. The MDX is probably one of the best cars I've ever owned in my life, and I've owned cars all over the spectrum, from 160 mile an hour capable cars to trucks, Wagoneers that could climb a cliff wall. So I like that combination of, like, it can do everything pretty decently. So I wanted something that was better than that to replace this car that served us for so long. And honestly, I never would have imagined a Porsche. I'm a Mustang, Camaro-ish kind of guy for sports cars, and never really was that interested in Porsches. And you sent me the picture for this thing, and I'm like, yeah, that looks a lot like the MDX. And I started doing research on it, started looking up the, what it did, what it could do, and I'm like, this is an MDX Plus. It's way better. It seems to be. It's got all the capabilities. It's got the cargo carrying capabilities. It's got the maneuverability of a car, and some, and then some. It's got the V8 engine, which we had, our old car before the MDX was a Crown Vic, which we really liked having the V8 and the acceleration. That's just wonderful. And then you get into all the options that it has, and that it's luxurious. I looked at a couple of Cayennes that I was a little worried about the ride, because this car is fundamentally for my wife, because I want her to have a car that can protect her, that can maneuver when she's in bad weather, in rough terrain or any kind of issues like that, that it'll basically be a car for her. And that's what the MDX was. And this seemed like it could be a car to take over from the MDX. So what I like about it, first off, I love the paint job. The paint job's phenomenal. I was a little worried. Our family is very much, everything's in black already. It's gonna sit next to my chrome and black Harley. I was a little worried, and this paint job on this metallic black is phenomenal. It reflects other colors, so it's not really black exactly. So I love that. The handling is phenomenal. The ride is like a cloud, but it's got the punch of a sports car. It looks phenomenal. It rides phenomenal. It's got almost every feature known to man, and it's just a comfortable ride that I could absolutely see driving everywhere in. And like, what more do you want from a car? I needed a car that I loved enough to move on from my previous car, and this is absolutely it. One of the things I really appreciate about this is that when you go into this instrument cluster, and basically all throughout the car, and now actually having got a chance to read the manual last night, there's a manual failover for everything. You've got you've got a digital speedometer, you've got an analog speedometer, you've got everything in there has a digital and analog companion. Something fails, there's a way to crank the windows, there's a way to get into the gas cap, there's always a failover. They've engineered this car phenomenally, and that, I really appreciate that, because one of the things I hate about a lot of the newer cars is the screen everywhere and there's nothing else. And that is a really good sign of engineering in my book. So one of the things that I have said a couple of times is that I keep calling this an MDX Plus, and people kind of might not understand how high a praise that is. For me, the MDX was one of the best cars I've ever owned, and I've owned cars all over the spectrum, and this is just better. And I've had this car for 17 years, and for me to let go of that car requires an enthusiasm, and that's what I've got with this car, is to move on to this, and I'm really pretty excited about it. All right, so one of the biggest concerns, and actually it was the big tension moment coming up here with my wife yesterday when we did the test drive, was I brought up our 15-foot canvas tent. our long cooler and a wood stove, which is our core camping set. It had to fit in the cargo compartment of this thing with all the seats up. And it was tight, but I definitely managed to pull it off. And that was, for me, that was all she wrote from there. Because we do go camping, you know, and we haven't had a reliable car, and now we have an absolutely reliable car. So camping is going to be big on the agenda, and being able to lift up the suspension, you know, take it a little bit off the road and get into someplace a little bit better for a campsite, that's going to be just key. But getting that camper, the tent in there was just huge. The air ride on this thing, like I said, I tried a couple of other Cayennes and they rode okay. They were a little too sporty. And again, my wife is the one who's going to be, this is, you know, kind of her car in a way, majorly anyways. So she thought the ride was a little too sport car-y. This thing in comfort mode is a cloud. I mean, I'd have to put it next to the MDX to compare, but it is just really comfortable. And I'd seen a lot of YouTubers talking like, oh, it's great. And it hadn't been borne up by the other two cars I tried it. So I was like really worried. And we got in this thing, comfort mode, cloud. And then we're on the highway. We get off the highway yesterday, test driving it around. I popped it into sport, and suddenly it's just right there on the road. It's just whipping right around into the exit, ripping right up onto the highway, nice and tight, and just a really nice handling machine. And it's just phenomenal that you can manage to have kind of that best of both worlds and go sport plus plus or go comfort mode. And hey, we're just cruising somewhere and we want to relax. And it's one of the things I liked about the MDX, and I think it's something that I love about this because it's just more.
All right, so upcoming videos. My 2007 Mini Cooper S Sidewalk Edition. I'm finishing that up. That should be at the end of this week. Give me another 7 days to get that straightened out. My 2007 BMW M6. I just have to finish that up. It's just been way too hot. And with all the other cars that I've been doing videos on, I just haven't had a chance. I barely drive it as it is. So now that I only have the Mini Cooper and that, I can get to it. So until the next video, everybody, Baldadonis out.